according to many people, Tomb Kings are one of the weakest factions in the game right now. Greenskins are one of the strongest, right? So taking a meme build like Kotep on his DJ kit into Greenskins certainly wouldn't work at all, right? Right? Not only that, but he's got a Necrosphinx, which is a fairly uncommon pick. This thing used to be extremely oppressive, honestly. Had some nerfs, and then Arcan's ability got changed from a heal to a summon. You can't abuse heal these things quite so much, but they can still be very good in the right situation. The rest of the build, we've got a couple of Tomb Guard with halberds here. Skeleton Chariots, very important for anti-infantry duty. Some Tomb Guard, got the Kepler Guard in the center. There's no Burning Head in this matchup against the Green Tide, so you can actually take Tomb Guard here. And you can see the Savage Orc Biggins already taking some heat from Kotep on the approach. Kotep also casting a spell there. Hits everything with the ability recharge time, I believe. Scar Snake's included in that. We've also got Bob and a River Troll Hag, a couple of Stone Trolls, Wolf Riders, Orc Error Boys, decent AP. To provide some range pressure, and then what is that? Boys and Savage Orc Biggins, but I mean, Chariots straight into the Savage Orc Biggins, I think they, would cost about the same, right? The Chariots might be actually slightly cheaper, but still not great. Orcs do tend to have very good mass, and even though I think the Savage Orcs have slightly less mass than the Biggins, don't take that as gospel. I don't remember 100%, but yeah, they are going to be able to tear down some of the models of Chariots there. These other Biggins getting absolutely blasted by Kotep's definitely going to be great. Skeleton Archers in the center as well obviously will make their presence felt. Pepper Guard also 42 weapon strength with anti-infantry. This is not going to be a terrible trade for them, especially considering the Savage Orcs have taken a lot of damage there. The charge isn't going to be as impactful as it would otherwise. But so far, so good. Should mention this replay from Blitzen, I believe. It's been a while. It was submitted like more than a week ago, but just kind of now getting around to it. I'm actually going out of town in a week or so I'm trying to get ahead on videos. Anyway, all that aside, Stone Trolls charging in the center here with Bob straight into the Kepler Guard. That's going to be quite painful. You know, 43 melee defense plus regeneration will help them somewhat in that situation, but here comes the Necrosphinx, and now is its chance to shine. That anti-large AP damage just gonna cleave through models of trolls here. That's very important. Killing the models of the trolls means they won't be able to regenerate, but Kotep is in deep trouble already. The Stone Trolls are gonna get in there with Bob. Bob in particular with good AP weapon strength. He's got heroic killing blow to put him up to 585, just pummeling poor Kotep right now. That being said, the Stone Trolls, between the Necrosphinx and the Tomb Guard, they're more than happy to rout them off here. Curse does get dropped from Kotep as well, which is going to do a little bit of AoE damage, but Wah being used in response here for the Greenskins, gonna hit everything, obviously, and Kotep is very quickly going down. Incantation of Protection, just trying to provide whatever he can. Skarsnik's making his way forward. His anti-large AP could prove pretty useful against the Necrosphinx in the late game. Likewise, Bob also, oof. Kotep trying to get a Vortex off, did not get it off in time as Bob gets the finish. But I mean, we've still got Chariots harassing the backline here, although they are crumbling. They're continuing to deal damage and just kind of occupy these archers in the meantime. A lot of the light cavalry is being effectively shut down. The Tomb Guard will be able to hold for some time. Most of the Savage Orc Biggins have been dealt with fairly effectively as well. I mean, there's still this one unit holding out over here, but in terms of, like, the power units, besides losing Kotep and the Chariots, most stuff for the Tomb Kings is still doing just fine. Necrosphinx coming back, having seen off those Stone Trolls properly, so you think about kind of the Greenskins power units, actually most of them are getting pretty low. I mean, they've still got their 2 single entities plus like the 1 Stone Troll here. Most of the rest of the army, I mean, I guess 3 single entities. Most of the rest of the army's not doing spectacular, so I guess you would expect balance power to be kind of even at that point, but let's see, can the Tomb Guard, Skeleton Spears continue to hold out? Skeleton Archers trying to get free. Bob getting in here with some nasty splash attacks, just bopping skeletons left and right. Not most efficient for him to be fighting the spears, but he'll be fine. He's going to pull away there. Does not want to fight the Necrosphinx alone, though, and you can see the Tomb Guard also in a position to support, so not a great situation for Bob. He's going to have to run away, and I believe 68 speed. He is slightly faster technically, but it looks like with the charge animation active, and also Necrosphinx not nearly as tired, as Bob is going to be able to catch up there potentially. So he's running for the hills. Whoops, a little bit of camera glitches there. My apologies. But Greenskins supporting infantry is mostly going to run away at this point. The Kepler Guard were able to sustain through all of this assault, that regeneration and healing, just making them so strong here. Anti-infantry as well, helping them clean up the 8-peak loons. Spirit Leech on Tomb Guard with halberds. Skarsnik also fighting them in melee, but really Skarsnik needs to try and detach and go after the Necrosphinx with his other single entities, which he is now doing. The fungi going to be popped there, minus melee defense, and of course enrages the Necrosphinx, so it can't pull out of this engagement. But the Tomb Kings still have plenty of supporting infantry here, and I mean, enraging the Necrosphinx just makes it attack whatever, right? And the River Troll Hag's going to immediately regret that life decision. A little bit of follow-up Savage Orc charge here in the side, but there's still just so many Tomb Guard holding out, fighting, you know, the Necrosphinx on top of all of this skeleton support. Super critical at this late stage of the game. These trolls are all just going to get pummeled, and still the Pocket Ushabti summon also going to be used to kind of try and trap them in here. Try and trap Bob in here as well. It does take quite a long time to go off, doesn't it? But there it is. Ushabti rising from the earth. All the Tomb Guard and Spearmen as well. Few Orkois. Few Archers also pouring in some fire there, but the Necrosphinx just completely resolute at this point. Taking damage, certainly, but dishing out extreme amounts of damage. Everything here is kind of, you know, large armored target that it's fighting, pretty much. Skarsnik just not able to really get in consistent contact with the Necrosphinx while everything else was fighting it, due to his somewhat limited nature as a Footlord. I mean, one of the best Footlords in the game, probably even still to this day, but still just a Footlord. Cannot get where he needs to be. And it looks like Tomb Kings are going to clean this one up, despite losing Kotep early on. Very impressive stuff, I have to say. Well played to Blitzen there. Fun build for sure. You know, Stone Trolls are strong, don't get me wrong. They're quite good in a number of matchups. They've sort of fallen out a little bit from the Greenskins, just because people have kind of learned how to counter them. But, you know, this is one matchup where it's surprisingly favorable for the Tomb Kings. If you were to just look at the tier rankings of these factions, Tomb Kings are legitimately probably lower on that spectrum, just because they have quite a few bad matchups. Greenskins are certainly towards the top end. There's no question about that. But specifically because Burning Head is like the bane of Tomb Kings, and Lore of Fire in general is so strong against them, Greenskins lacking that, and lacking really any kind of fire damage whatsoever. It really plays into the strengths of Tomb Kings. You know, you've got the fear factor as well, which Greenskins, even though they are still very strong, they also still don't have the greatest leadership in the world. Which is a factor to consider when fighting undead at any time, but yeah, here the Necrosphinx just carrying an immense amount of value against the Stone Trolls, against Bob and the Hag. The Tomb Guard with halberds, not really doing a lot, but able to hold out and certainly defend until the end. Kepler Guard do actually get legitimate value fighting back against Greenskins infantry. Other Tomb Guard swords do quite well. Also, we saw what happened in Kotep. Yeah, enough said about that. But the Biggins here, he was able to limit, and again, kind of talking about like the win condition units for here, right? Like the Stone Trolls and the Biggins, and then obviously the single entities as well. Bob, out of all those, performed best by far, almost 2,000 damage value on him, but the rest of these were able to be limited fairly well by Blitzen here, even though he was, you know, taking it in the chin in many places. The Chariots definitely didn't pay for themselves, but just prioritizing, you know, staying tight, keeping that support up, using that Necrosphinx smart in the late game, and it definitely proved pretty decisive. So nice to see Tomb Kings win against the Greenskins. Big thanks again for sending that one in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Necrosphinx, I mean, I may end up titling this video, you know, sort of a unit highlight of the Necrosphinx, but looking at it on paper, you know, there's a reason you don't see it a ton. Big monsters are a little tricky to use right now, and in regards to the ROR, you might think, like, oh, fire damage of the ROR would be beneficial against Stone Trolls. In fact, the magic damage makes that more or less a moot point. I believe it's 25% magic resistance. It might even be more. Let's take a look. On Stone Trolls, yeah, 25%. So it more or less just, yeah, even 5% net decrease in damage dealt by the ROR because of that magic resistance versus fire weakness, so would be actually more beneficial, besides the extra combat stats, of course. And for some reason, the ROR Necrosphinx has that little bit of extra HP, which, I mean, maybe that alone might be worth it in some situations. But, you know, against other factions that have access to Lure of Fire here, like, you know, Warriors of Chaos, perhaps, this thing's somewhat vulnerable there, but if you can keep it supported, it will do well. It just really doesn't like fighting infantry blobs unsupported, which is, again, Burning Head we come back to, you know, Tomb King's infantry just dying horribly to that. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, though. Necrosphinx, I mean, anti-large AP certainly looks very impressive on paper. If we were to compare it to another kind of beat stick, right, which, I mean, Shaggoths are also just this unit class you don't see a ton right now because it's easily countered by a lot of cheap missiles, and the meta has kind of been wide for a little bit now. Occasionally you do see them in certain matchups, but I mean, Necrosphinx in many ways very comparable to a Shaggoth, a little bit worse attack and defense, a little bit less health, more armor, you know, you've got the undead factor, it's got more weapon strength. I think the anti-large, 35 anti-large is pretty impressive, actually even better than the Shaggoths, so I mean, certainly can be great, synergizing a little bit with, you know, you've got your Necrotex that can still heal it up somewhat, help give it some extra missile resistance and armor and whatnot. You know, helping this guy. Also, if he's on the Chariot, can kind of cycle charge infantry that might be troubling the Necrosphinx, but in general, it's going to be tricky to use in a lot of matchups for the same reason that a lot of these big monsters are tricky to use in a lot of those missile-centric matchups, right? But perhaps in melee-centric ones, we should see more Necrosphinxes. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, though. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.